Power Rankings, a staple tradition of the draft community where one individual decides their opinion is law and decides to rank every team in the league worst to best. Technically speaking, we have already done PRs, a whole 7-hour video over on Dreez's channel where he deep dives into every single team and his opinions on their picks. Truly the waffler of all time. You can find that video linked in the description down below once you've finished up with this video, which will be a much more condensed version with more of my general takes on some of the picks. None of the teams this season are objectively bad. The team I ranked the lowest still has all the strengths to make a top tier competitor, so just keep that in mind going forward. Of course, before diving in, I must plug the channel and ask y'all to like this video and consider subscribing to not miss any future Draft League videos. And with that all being said and done, let's get right into the GWA Pokemon Draft League tier list. Alright, and then first up here we have Tog with the Michigan Manetrix. He had the first round pick, and genuinely speaking, he has an amazing team. Like, objectively speaking, this team is super freaking good. Dragapult, Hisuian Samurott, Heatran, and Rillaboom are an amazing top 4 picks. Landorus Incarnate is super, super strong. It's a little bit of a fraud because, while yes, the ground flying typing is really good, being weak to water is not the best. And while yes, it can still do its sheer force life orb thing, its speed stat isn't really the best, so you're kind of getting outsped by a lot of Scarfers, and even just generally fast Mons don't exactly love to be able to throw off their massive hits into this thing. Salazzle is really good. It's really, really annoying. This thing, genuinely speaking, like, even if you just run the standard, like, poison, not poison, toxic substitute stall team, like, this thing is just super annoying, and its speed tier is so good. Glimmet and Trico, very hype picks. Klefki, really solid for supporting the rest of the team with, screens, as well as, whatever the heck, T-Wave, and then Spike support, really, really good. And of course, the Terra captains are just really solid. I love me a Yanmega, with Terra flying, Fairy, and ground, just really, really solid overall. And then Cryo, I love Cryogonal. This thing is a goat. It's his main form of removal, which is still just really solid. The only issue I see with it is the fact that it's your main form of removal and it's your Terra Captain. So if you really want spin, you kind of want to bring that, which means that you're not oftentimes bringing Yanmega with Terra. And considering that Yanmega has its flying and bug type typing before Utera, you kind of don't love switching in with Broxup, so you really like to have a remover. You don't really have very many removal options. Like, you kind of just have Cryo with Spin, and then, like, Salazzle, of course, to be your grounded poison type. Glimmet does not get Mortal Spin. So, honestly, like, very, very good team. Like, objectively speaking, really, really solid. There's just a few things, like, mainly with, like, the removal options and how your main form of removal is your Terra Captain when you really like your biggest Terra Captain and Yanmega to be able to get in freely with the rocks up. So I would probably rank you in Exquisite tier. I think that's a pretty solid option. Probably top of Exquisite for the time being. If I had to say anything, I really like this. There's just a few, like, minor issues that I have that I feel like a few things might be able to make it a little bit better. Very, very offensive. I just feel like there's a few slight things that kind of hold your team back from being, like, true S tier. So, of course, I might move you up later on, but for now, I think this is just very solid. Dragapult, everyone knows that this thing is just very good. And then Hisuian Samurott, amazing spike setter with Ceaseless Edge. Heatran can set up rocks well. Rillaboom offering priority. Again, your top 4 alone probably just bumps you up a crazy amount. Especially when you add on Lando I there too. Like, you're definitely like either top of here or bottom of here. I might bump you up later on, but for now I'll just leave you here. And then next up we have Pup with the South Bend Snowflakes. At round two pick, you picked up Tornadus Therian. Honestly, really hype pick. I'm not the biggest fan of Torn T, mainly just because your best stab options still have that chance to miss. Even Bleak Wind still has that chance, so it's kind of like a little rough. But your team is just super balanced overall. Like everything on your team, I could see coming at least once. Iron Hands and Screamtail offer an amazing defensive core, especially alongside Sandaconda and Avalugg there too. And then Macargo is a really funny Terra Captain. For 2 points, it's very solid. I could see it definitely coming like once or twice. Moth, very good offensively. And then King Gambit, it's a bulky offensive mon, but at the end of the day, like with Sucker Punch mind games, you can never count that out. Gudra is really good, and Ogre Teal is pretty cool. I like that overall. Really, and then of course your Terra captains. You got Terra Avalugg, you got Terra Mecargo, and then your main top tier Terra Pokemon and Inteleon. The the biggest issues that I see with this team is your speed tiers are a little fucked. Like you have Torn T, which is really fast and really solid like that. And Screamtail, which is also pretty quick. Uh, but then like at the same time, they kind of like being ran like semi defensively. You do have enough bulk, so I could see you running more fast offensive variants. Inteleon is very fast and offensive. I like that. Same sort of thing with Ogre Teal. It's just, and then Iron Moth, of course, too, is also pretty quick. I just don't love how your speed kind of just goes from like really good to just not the best after that. Like after Ogre Teal, I not Ogre Teal. Actually, yeah, Ogre Teal and Screamtail. Everything else kind of like takes a nosedive. Conda's really slow. Avalug's slow. King Gambit slow. So your mid speed tiers are not that great. Um, and then, of course, you still kind of have that same general issue that I mentioned with Togg's team, where you want to be tearing Inteleon a lot of the time, but then you can't really Terra Avalugg or Magcargo, which definitely need that Terra. Sure, you have your full max 12 Mons on your team, so I could definitely see you not needing to bring multiple Terra Captains in a week. But if you really want a spinner, then you kind of need Avalugg. That's your main form of removal. You could go Defog on Torn T. I believe it keeps it. I'm not 100% sure. But outside of that, you don't really have the best removal, so it's kind of just being forced to run boots a lot of the time, which I do know that you did before already, so it's a possibility. Overall, I like the general feel of your team. It's just I don't love the mid speed tiers. And then also not the biggest fan of the Terra. Well, I like the Terra captains, but like you get what I'm saying. The same sort of thing with Tog, where you kind of are forced to bring like one, and you can't really bring the others. And if you're bringing Avalugg as a removal, you can't really bring Inteleon or Magcargo then, because Avalugg takes up a lot of like Terra support a lot of the time. So I would probably rank you right around here. I could see you being like top or middle of solid. I might bump you up to bottom of exquisite depending on where everyone else lies. It all just sort of depends where we go forward here. I definitely think that you're more so around here though. I don't see you going any lower than this for sure. And then next up, we got me. That's going in the me tier. I've already talked pretty extensively about my team. The main reason I'm ranking myself like here in my own little tier here is because I'm not a big fan of ranking myself comparing to the other teams. I have a much more deep insight to what I could bring with my team compared to what my opponents could bring, so it kind of gives me some bias, and I'm not a big fan of like ranking myself higher just because I can see something that my opponents can't. So I'm just going to put myself here in my little own zone here. But next up, right after me, we got Caleb, who honestly, for someone who drafted only 9 pointers, this team is pretty good. This team is pretty good. Round one Flygon, really fucking funny. Blissey, just annoying. Tinkaton, annoying. Overquill, very good Pokemon. Hisuian Braviary, a great Terra Captain. Same thing with Wo-Chien, amazing, amazing Terra Captain. Bisharp, great Pokemon. I love Bisharp. Um, Jolteon is really, really good. Mousehold, I'm a big fan of the mouse. Of course, it's my favorite Pokemon. Basculegion male, really, really scary. Shaman, kind of a little bit mid, but at the same time, Shaman is just a very solid Pokemon. Like, it's still a mythical at the end of the day, so you can run it offensive, you can run it with bulk. And then Politoed kind of gives you a little bit of that rain synergy with Overquill and Basculegion male. Really, really good team, I would say, for someone with the gimmick of drafting all 9 pointers. Like, of course, you guys see here that they didn't use all of their points because, well, drafting all 9 pointers, you can't exactly use up all your points. And you also see that they got 18 Terra points. And basically, we just were like, if you're drafting all 9 pointers, we'll let you draft two Terra captains. We're not going to hinder your fun there. So we let them get two Terra captains, despite going over the Terra limits. When you have a gimmick like this, we don't really care. This is all just for fun after all. And as much as I want to rank you in solid, I think somebody has to be at the bottom. And like I said, the bottom does not mean that I dislike your team or I think it's bad. I love this team. I wish I could rank it higher. It's just with all 9 pointers, you're missing out on a lot of that strength. You did get a 6-0 in your first match, so very, very good for you. Um, but yeah, again, nothing really personal or anything. I wish I could rank you higher, but for being all 9 pointers, that's kind of just the best I can do for right now. And then next up, we have the man, the myth, the legend. We have Drees here with the Navy Seals. Um, just this is a Drees team. This is such a Drees team. Gouging Fire, Greninja, Scizor, Ursaluna Blood Moon, Terracross, Fez, Terra Belly Bolt, Braviary, Bronzong, Samu, and Serp. Like, this team is just like there's no bad Pokemon on this team. Like the closest thing I could say to being bad is like Samu, and even then it's just like for a 3 pointer, and it's like it's meant to be like your bulky water, and it's like it can do an okay job. Like it'll come at least like once or twice. I don't think it's a bad Pokemon by any means. I think it's just a little outclassed by other things. Gouging Fire, amazing Pokemon. I want to use Gouging Fire so bad in a future season. And then Gren and Scizor, I love those guys. I think they're great Pokemon. I'm a big fan of Ursaluna Blood Moon. I definitely want to use that Pokemon too. It's super, super strong. Terracross, super, super crazy, especially with Terra Normal Facades and then like Terra Dark for your knockoff, as well as to avoid your psychic weakness, like just really, really nasty. And then Bellybolt is just a demon with Terra. uh Braviary, like the only thing that I could really say is that it's a little too bulky for my taste. Like your speed tiers are kind of abysmal. Greninja being like your main fast Pokemon, like you have Serp, of course, and then Fez is kind of fake speed tier because you want to run it bulky a lot of the time, so you could run it fast, but at the same time, oh, whoops, sorry. So I'm not really sure about that, but Serp and Gren being your only fast Pokemon, like, sure, you still have like some great bulky offensive mons, And Scizor with Priority Technician, just really, really solid. Get some solid boosting options, like Heracross can go for like Trailblaze, Gouging Fire can go for D-Dances. Like, of course, your Mons can definitely still do a lot of things. I'm just I feel like there's a few things holding the team back, and it's mainly just your lack of like super super good speed. Gren being your top his speed tier, it's solid. It's all right. I think I would rank you either bottom of exquisite or top of solid. I'll leave you in top of solid for right now. I might bump you up later, depending where things lie. But I think for right now, I think I'm gonna leave you here. I don't think you're as good as Tog's team, but I think you're a bit better than Pups and of course and Caleb's team. And then next up, we got my boy El King here, with his Iron Valiant, Corviknight, Darkrai, Sandy Shocks, Ogerpon Cornerstone, Terra Arcanine, Terra Hitmonchan, Rotom Wash, Knucklestack, Spiritomb, and Glowbro. I'm a big fan of this team. I am a big fan of this team. I would definitely say like Darkrai, aka Midcry. I'm not like I both am and am not a fan of this Pokemon. Like objectively speaking, like it's a solid Pokemon and it fits his team well. I just am not that big of a fan of it. So I'm going to just like call it a net neutral for right now. Everything else though, like I rate really highly. Iron Valiant, that's another mon I need to use at some point. I feel like Iron Valiant is such a cool mon to use. Corv, great bulky offense mon. Like it could be a wall. It can do some serious damage with Iron Defense Body Press or even bulk up sets. Um, it getting really good removal with Defog. That's another thing too that I forgot to mention about Dreeze's team. The removal options aren't really that great. You don't have Rapid Spin, right? Am I missing something? No, you don't have Rapid Spin. But you do have some defog, and like heavy duty boots are a thing. Like I think not having the best removal is fine, especially since your team isn't really that weak to hazards anyways. But that's another reason here. Uh, Elliot's team, however, he does not have that issue whatsoever. He has Corviknight defog. He has Hitmonchan to Rapid Spin. Not the biggest fan of that guy, but I mean it's fine. But getting both of those things is really solid. Um, yeah, most of my issues with this team come from things that he is already aware of because we build together all the time. I am not a fan of Hitmonchan. That man is an absolute fraud. Like, it takes up so much, like, Terra cost for you, and it's just like, you have Knucklestack right there. Like, that's a perfect mon for a Terra captain. And you really want to be using Terra on Arcanine. Arcanine is an amazing Terra captain. Wash Tome, love that guy. Glowbro, I'm not the biggest fan, mainly just because I like my regen mons to have switch moves, and since it doesn't have teleport, it's not really as good. But I mean, for a 9 pointer, it's solid. I'm not gonna complain about that. Big fan of Ogre Stone. I love that guy. Sandy Shocks is super cool. I would probably rank you. Um, I think, looking at Tog's team, I think uh, it's hard for me to rank. I think I'm gonna put you here for right now. I think Tog's team is definitely a little bit better, mainly just because I don't like that Hitmonchan. Like the issues I have with Tog's team are mainly just the fact that the Terra captains are a little bit like iffy, whereas for you, you just have a whole Pokemon that sort of just like is not there half the time. So I think going with Tog being a little bit ahead is for the best here. And then next up we have Maki, the individual who stole both Meowscarada and Cinderace from me. But Meowscarada, Iron Bundle, Cinderace, that's just a demon core right there. I hate Iron Bundle, let me just say. Like, Iron Bundle alone is probably keeping you at a banger tier. Like, but I can't deny it is a very strong Pokemon. I just hate relying on Hydro Miss. Uh, as I am Mr. Missed 4 Hydro Pumps in a row. So I am probably not the biggest fan of that. But I can't deny, if you hit your Hydro Pumps, there's going to be very few things that can deal with you. Latios, big fan of Latios. Dawn fan, very solid spinner, probably one of the best spinners in the format. And speaking of, you also have Tentacruel, which is an amazing defensive water to pair with Iron Bundle, and you get Rapid Spin. So I really like that. Huge fan of Thundurus Incarnate. And then Terra Alchemy and Registeel are both very, very good Terra captains. Um, the like Dunsparce likes Terra, but I feel like Dunsparce is a mon that doesn't absolutely need Terra so much as things like, for example, Knucklestack would really like it. Normal is just a fine type as is. And then Mizzy, kind of in the same boat. Like, you don't exactly have to have it be your main Terra guy. It's nice to have for sure. It can definitely put in some serious work with Terra, but I don't think it's worth getting rid of Alchemy and Registeel as your Terra captains. I would probably rank this also an exquisite. You know what? I'm gonna bump Tog up to banger. I'm gonna bump you up to banger. My only issues are just that your Terra type synergies are a little bit off, but I think this is so far the best team that I've seen on uh at least that I've looked gone through so far. I'm sure there's going to be someone in there who joins you, but you're definitely going in that tier now. And Maki, I would probably also put you in exquisite tier. Your speed tiers are very good. Meowscarada, Iron Bundle, Cinderace, Latias, very fast team, especially when you have Tentacruel on there, which is kind of fake speed, but at the same time, not really, because you have such a high speed tier anyways, you can sort of afford to just run more in your bulk. And then Thundurus Incarnate, very good Pokemon for speed tiers. Your mid speed tiers are kind of not the best. So that's sort of why I would probably rank you here. I might swap you and Drees. Trying to think of what team I'd rather face. Um, you know what? I think I'm gonna switch you and Drees for right now, at least. I might bump you up later, but I think I would rather fight you than Drees right now, just mainly because uh, if Iron Bundle misses a Hydro Pump, then I am just not scared of it at all. Because Jen just like, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm just trying to say. And then Meowscarada, Cinderace, both very good Pokemon. Um, but like those mid speed tiers, you're going to be facing a lot of people who run no speed investment on some of their more mid speed mons, and they're going to be incredibly hard for you to break because it's just going to allow them to go like max in their bulk or even more damage in their attack stats and be able to run like adamant or modest natures. So while yes, your bulk is still solid with Alchemy, Registeel, Dunsparce, and Donphan and Tenta, you're still going to have some issues with people being able to run a lot of extra bulk and attack into you. So I think that sort of goes into here. Very good team, though. Very good team. And then next up, we have ILCHL. Oh my god, I absolutely butchered that name. IHLP, aka Renegade, kind of rebranded after some unfortunate things happened. uh, just got their Discord hacked. Love that. Um, and his New York Garchomps. Uh, this this is definitely an IHLP team. Actually, it's also an Elliott team too. Deoxys Speed, Annihilate, Mandibuzz, Rotom with Terra, Landorus T, Alomomola, Enamorous Incarnate, Cyclizar, Caparajah, and Swalot. Ooh, this is a bulky ass team. Yeah, this team is just so insanely bulky. It'll be really hard for a lot of people to break, but I feel like your offense is also still really good. Don't get me wrong. Like DOS is a threat and a half. Like it's bulky enough to be able to live the hits it needs to, and it's also strong enough to be able to sweep teams with like a nasty plot or a calm mindset. Annihilate, you can never count that thing out. It's not as good um in more recent times after the DLCs, because now you're just like just don't hit it, just status it, and then just let it wear itself down over time. So it's not quite as good. Mandibuzz, a big fan of that mon. Absolute goat of a wall. Really, really difficult to break, especially alongside the likes of Alomomola and Intimidate support from Landers Therian. Namorous, really great offensive Pokemon, kind of a fraud in some cases. I haven't found the best use with it. Cyclizar, very solid. Shedtail is banned, so that's kind of a ripperoni, but it gives you a regen core with Alomomola, which is nice. And your two Terra Captains in Caparajah and Rotomo, very solid. Caparajah just does crazy damage with sheer force boosted hits, and Rotomo, like, I think going Terra on Rotomo is always just a very solid idea to go for. Um, just for me personally, I like the team. It's definitely very, very threatening. But I think I would rather fight your team than I would Pup's team right now. I don't think I would put you in See the Vision right now. I might bump you down to top of See the Vision, depending on where like things line up, because a lot of teams go in like the solid tier. See the Vision kind of just means that like I see what you're going for. It's just I feel like there are some flaws. Like one of the biggest ones that I would probably see is just like you have a lot of potential threats offensively, but not a lot of things that can cause immediate damage. Like Enamorous Incarnate kind of being like the main like go-to initial attacker is kind of not the best thing in the world. Annihilate really wants to be like bulking up in order to deal its damage. Same thing with Deoxys attack. Rotomo being forced to run choice specs isn't always the best option. Landers Therian, like granted, having all this buff, all this bulk allows you to be able to run like offensive Landers Therian, which is really nice. But it being your main rocker as well, outside of like maybe Caparajah and like Annihilate, and then I guess DOS too. But like that sort of is like the main thing I'm getting at. You have a lot of things that can fill a lot of roles, but you don't really have a lot of immediacy that I like to see in a lot of my teams. So I feel like your team is going to be prone to either getting stalled out over time or getting bowled over before you get a chance to be able to set up your main offensive mons. I could definitely be wrong. Like again, see the vision does not mean that I see your team as bad. It's just like I feel like I see some issues with the team that kind of keeps you out of being in the more top tier uh like rankings, in my opinion at least. But I'll leave you in solid for now, and I'll bump you down if need be. And next up, we have Crep and the Twilight Slashers. I must just say, goaded, goaded logo here. I love this logo. It's super, super clean. Um, and and the team is also really scary too. Like I would, this team, it's up here for me. It's one of these two for me. Um, Great Tusk, Spectrier, Empoleon, Ogre Wellspring, Galarian Weezing, Hydreigon, Noivern, Delphox, Articuno, Alola Golem, and Komala. Uh, I would probably say I don't think it's in banger tier, mainly just because of the fact of the speed tiers. Like Great Tusk, very very amazing Pokemon. Love that guy. Great setup Pokemon with bulk up and rapid spin sets, and it can even run like booster speed variants, which is really cool. And Spectrier, your main fast Pokemon, snowballs like crazy. Um, even after just like one turn of setup, you're sweeping a lot of teams. It's a big matchup fish, which I really like for your team specifically. And then the combo of Empoleon and Ogre Wellspring, really really solid because you have one of your main bulky waters in Empoleon, and it's weak to ground, but then Ogre Wellspring is resistant to ground, and actually is just like the best ground type counter. So very great synergy there, and I'm a big fan of Ogre Wellspring as a whole. It's just very threatening. A great offensive Pokemon, and it can serve a lot of defensive purposes as well. Uh, Empoleon, not really my favorite thing. I used it in the last season of the MMC, and I felt like it didn't really do the absolute best for me. But maybe that's just because I didn't have an amazing Mon to like pair it with. Galarian Weezing, absolutely excellent Poison Fairy type. Like, I was looking at this thing for so long because it's just so good. It has so many good matchups. Being able to set up Misty Terrain is really nice. Uh, Being able to run Levitate to be ground immunity on the weeks that you don't really worry about toxic spikes. Um, just really good. I love Galarian Weezing. Hydreigon, this is a great Pokemon that I want to use, but at the same time, like with the fairy type and everything, it's really not as amazing as it used to be. Still very threatening. And then Noivern, I'm not a big fan of Noivern, especially without Terra. And that's honestly probably where I would like say my biggest issue is with Noivern because you already have your great Dragon type. I see that the Noivern is mainly just there for like the speed tier, which at the end of the day, touche. Like you need to fill your speed tier somehow, but having that type overlap with Hydreigon is really not the best in the world, especially when you already kind of have a pretty big weakness to ice, I would say. And then your Terra captains with Delphox, Articuno, and Alola Golem. Really funny. Uh, Delphox being Terra, Fire, Grass, and Dragon. Not a huge fan of the Terra Dragon, to be honest, because you already have two Dragon types. I think going with Terra Fairy on that over Terra Fairy on Articuno would be a little bit better. If anything, I would rather go Terra Dragon on Articuno, so then you're able to always resist fire types. I think swapping those around would be a little bit better, in my opinion. Uh, or even just going with Terra Steel on Articuno instead. So then you can put Terra Fairy onto Delphox. Lola Golem, really funny guy. I'm not a big fan. I think I don't know if this thing gets Rapid Spin or not. If it does, then it has like a role. But if not, then it's just kind of like it's an electric type, but it's not really good into water types, so that's kind of like eh. And then Komala, very funny guy. I almost feel like that would be a better Terra Captain, but I know you can't really fit it with Delphox Articuno. So, uh, um, I would still probably say I would put you up here just for like your top picks alone. Like Great Tusk to Hydreigon, excellent. And then I love Delphox and Articuno as Terra captains. I would probably say just like switching up those Terra types might help a bit. I'm just not a big fan of like Alola Golem and Noivern. And then like Kamala is still it's fine. It's all right. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but it's something. I feel like you could combine Kamala and Alola Golem and get a more quality 5 pointer, but that's just me as well. So I think would I rather fight your team or would I rather fight Maki's team? I think I would rather fight your team right now, or not your team, Maki's team, mainly just because of the fact that Great Tusk Spectre is just so threatening, especially when you consider like Empoleon and Ogre Wellspring, Galarian Weezing, and Hydreigon being there. I think those top mons are just more threatening to me personally than the top mons on Maki's team. So I think having them there is probably for the best. And now up for Zero and his Lokic Scouts. Honestly, I have mixed feelings. I have mixed feelings about this team. Um, I like Raging Bolt. I really do. I enjoy him. He's not my favorite outside of Sun, but I mean he's still a very solid guy. Then Rachi, very very good Pokemon. Lokix, I'm a big fan of Lokix. Like I'm a big fan of so many of these Mons. He even has Quaquaval, my guy. Terra Iron Thorns, super super good Pokemon. Rabombi for web support, really good. Glamora, all the hazards, and a form of removal as well, so you don't always have to be running Defog on Talonflame. Ting Lu gives you a lot of great bulk. And then Sceptile with Terra is really really great too. Um, there's just a few things that I really don't love about the team, and that one of them is mainly like the speed tiers. Sceptile, Rabombi, and Talonflame are all very good. But then like outside of those, I think the team is just very slow. It does help a lot with having Rabombi there with sticky webs, so I'm not going to like downgrade it like too much for it being a little on the slow side because that does help out a lot. Um, and then you do have a lot of immediacy and great setup options. Mm, I think for right now, I like I like your team better than Maki's. At this point in time, I like this team better here, mainly just because I feel like every single one of your Mons could 100% come any given week, whereas I feel like on Maki's team, uh, a lot of them could, but I feel like either Alcremie or Registeel is coming. And uh, then like the top tiers, of course, and then I feel like Dunsparce and Misdreavus are a lot more matchup fishy than anything else you have on your team. So I think I'm gonna have you right here. I might bump you up to bottom of Exquisite, but I think for right now I'll leave you here. I just feel like your team is very, very offensive while still being a little on the slower side. Having the priority with low kicks is helps out a lot with that. Um, Especially running just like choice banded like priority options. Just it's always a great option. Rachi, kind of a fake speed tier again because it's bulky. You like to run it bulky a lot of the times. And if I know how Zero plays, he likes to play a lot of hyper offense. And this just does not like fit a more hyper offensive mold in my opinion. But objectively speaking, I do enjoy a lot of it. I think it could go anywhere from like here to here. So I think for now I'll leave you here, and then I might bump you up later. And then next up we have Dino and the Dryden Dragonites. Oh, this team is this might be one of the more top teams. I think this might go up here somewhere. Roaring Moon Torkoal, just you can't count out Roaring Moon in the Sun, or Roaring Mid, I should say. I can't even really make that joke. Roaring Moon has won so many leagues for people now. I think it's beaten the fraud allegations, at least in my opinion. And then especially when you add on Hisuian Arcanine as an amazing Mon to use with Sun as well, Lilligant, and Terra Charizard. Really funny, really funny Terra types on Charizard. Flying, Fairy, and Ice. Like, very interesting. I wouldn't exactly expect it, but at the same time, like I can see it because of the chilly reception into Charizard with Terra Ice. I could definitely see that. Fortress, really good rapid spinning option. Zapdos can defog, really good offensive or defensive Pokemon. Anything here, any given week, I could see coming. I'm not a big fan of Keldeo, especially on a Sun team like this, but I get it. You do need a water type still. I just feel like a bulky water type would be a little bit better here. Um, you know what? I think uh kind of right here. I think I would rather fight Drees than your team. So I think you're up here. It's kind of You know what? I'm gonna rate Dino's team higher than Elliot's for right now. I really like Elliot's team, but I feel like on any Pokemon on Dino's team could come any given week. Whereas on Elliot's team, I feel like there's a few mons that might be some dead weight. Hitmonchan and Spiritomb. Um, but I do think that Dino's team, anything could come any given week. Uh, and yeah, even Keldeo, the mon that I would probably rate the lowest here, it can still do massive work. Like I, this thing just it just does damage. More damage than I expect it to a lot of the time. And I feel like with how immediate your damage output is already, I think that's going to open it up a lot for some more setup sets, or even like choice scarf sets for that matter too. Uh, so yeah, I think Dino's team ranks up here for the time being. And then next up, we have Harvey and the Pittsburgh Pastries. Ah, man, this team, it just itches something in my brain. I just like this. Not a fan of Raichu, but everything else, like all of these are great mons. Decidueye, not my favorite Pokemon, but I mean it's got Defog, and it's nice to have a Defogger. Terapagos, like again, one of the best spinners in the format. Hisuian Gudra. I'm not a big fan of having Hisuian Gudra and then not having another steel type, mainly just because I think having your steel type that's not resistant to dragon isn't the best. Because it looks to me that your team is very dragon weak outside of Primarina, and if your opponent is able to handle Primarina uh, while still being able to throw off dragon moves, then I think you're in a bit of an issue. But can't deny that this team just looks it just itches my brain. I enjoy it. Very very bulky with Gliscor, Primarina, Gudra, and Umbreon. That's going to open up Rotom a lot to throwing off more offensive sets. Same sort of thing with Meloetta for that matter. And even Terapagos too. Um, and then Sneasler, like I am a big fan of Sneasler. Not a huge fan of the speed tiers. Very very slow team outside of Sneasler. So I feel like even though I really really like this team, I feel like I have to rank it a little bit lower because you're going to be seeing a lot of people running max bulk and then like adamant and modest natures against your team just from how like slow your team is outside of Sneasler. Like they're gonna have like one Scarfer to be able to outspeed Sneasler, and everything else is just going to be like just enough speed creep the things that they need to, and it's just going to be all bulk and like adamant, modest natures. So I think that's going to bump you down a decent amount, even though I really like it. I would probably rank you here personally, and I'll probably move IHLP down to see the vision for the time being. Um, and of course, like I keep on saying, see the none of these lower rankings are a bad thing. There's not a single bad team this season in my opinion. It's just something has to be ranked the lowest, and see the vision just kind of means like I want you to prove me wrong. Prove to me that your team is as good as these other teams that I can more immediately see it, because I want to see your team do well. So I just need you to show me it in practice. You know what I mean? But with that little tangent out of the way, here we have Milk, who is actually my week one opponent. And saying this as someone who's prepped for Milk, team is very threatening. I have a few flaws that I have seen. The main one being outside of Blaziken and Walking Wake, you don't really have that many immediate like damage dealers. Azelf can kind of fill that role, but you do like running Azelf as a more of a lead set a lot of the time, especially considering uh, Pert is Pert and Probo are kind of your only other hazard setters. So Azelf being able to be a fast lead mon is really, really nice. So it being forced into a more offensive role isn't always the best. Vikavolt can be very offensive. Galarian Moltres, bulky offense. I really like Chinchino with the Terra Captain. I probably would have rated it. Probably would have made it a Terra Grass, I think, for Stab Bullet Seeds personally, but maybe that's just me. Terra Rotom Frost, really solid. Great Terra Captain overall. Not a big fan of Dedenne. I feel like you could have gotten rid of Dedenne since you already have. Do you have a fairy type? No, you don't have a fairy type outside of that. I didn't realize that. Um, I just feel like there's another fairy type you could have possibly gotten. Um, and then a big fan of Probo. Probo's really funny. I like Nosferatu. Pert, very good. Um, Serena, good spinner, very good spinner. Runt, good defensive Pokemon. Mm, it's just sort of in this like weird spot for me where I feel like there's some things about it that I really like and some things that I'm just not a huge fan of and need a little bit of convincing on. So I think for right now, I think I'll rate your team. It's between here or here. I think uh like looking at Pup's team, I would rather face these teams than Pup's team. Uh and then but what team would I rather face between Harvey and Milk? That I actually really don't know. Um I think I would rather face Harvey's team just for the pure sense that Harvey's team just looks really annoying to break, and having Sneasler there to just like offer some really strong offense alongside Terapagos while the other Mons are able to just drink hits. I think I would rather face the Mons that like Blaziken, Walking Wake. I'd rather face those and have to deal with like the more wide ranging team than I would deal with Harvey's more like focused team. I think at least. Yeah, I think that's the way I'll describe it for right now. It's just I feel like this team is a little unfocused for my taste. It's not that it's bad. It's just I don't really see it as much that, and I just feel like it's a little unfocused. But hey, I want you to prove me wrong at the end of the day. And then next up, we have Patrick here, our MMC Season 3 champion. Oh, yeah, by the way, Zero is the MMC Season 4 champion. Spoiler alert. Oh, this team. This team is. I think this team is up here for sure. Golden Go, I hate that thing. It's so annoying. I love it. I love it. Urshifu Single Strike, Garchomp, Terra Kilowattrel, Blastoise. Oh my god, sorry, I'm yapping for too long. My vocal cords are hurting. Um Blastoise, Diancie, Ogre Flame. Not a fan of Toedscruel. I think that thing's kind of mid, but I mean as a spinner it's aight. I just feel like you already have a great ground type. You already have a great spinner. You could have probably picked up a better grass type, I feel like. But especially considering you have gold, so you don't even really have the like mycelium might being able to spore golden go thing. So it's kind of like, I feel like you could get rid of that. Mesprit, funny guy. Not a huge fan of it, but I mean it can do solid work. And then Skunk Tank. I'm not a big fan of that as your Terra Captain, mainly just because I feel like Dark Poison is already such a good typing as is. I don't think you really want to be Terraing it much. But, I mean, hey, that just means that it leaves up more Terra space for Kilowattrel then. So, which is going to be the thing that you're Terraing most often anyways. Um, Genuinely, like, this team is just so annoying to prep for. gold. It's so hard to find something that both breaks Golden Go, something that breaks Urshifu, and like can eat hits from things like Shell Smash Blastoise, SD Garchomp, Ogre Flame, and even like weakness policy sets on Diancie, and then like Specs Kilowattrel with Terra. Like this thing is just so hard to prep for. Um, would I rather face this than El King's team? I think I would, mainly just because the only issue I really have with Patrick's team is that Toadscruel is kind of mid. It's not bad, it's just mid. Whereas I would objectively say that Hitmonchan is just bad. And I think Spiritomb is not great. And then like Skunk Tank, like as a Mon, I think it's fine. I just don't think it's the best Terra Captain. So I think I'm gonna just rate that in exquisite tier, right under Dinos. And I think just to bump something up else into a banger tier, I think I will bump Dino's team up to banger. Uh, do I think that is the best option here? Hmm, I might actually want to switch around Patrick and Dino. I might want to do that. Um, yeah, I think Dino's team will get bumped down a little bit because now that I'm looking at it again, there's just a few things that just like irk me a little bit. I do think I would rather face Dino's Sun team than Elliot's more bulky, balanced offensive team. I don't even know what to call Elliot's team. But I think that's a really good top three. And then everything else here, I think that's where I'm going to leave it. I think that is a pretty good power rankings here. All right, everybody, please feel free to complain down in the comments. Tell me where you think your team should have ended up and where everyone else's team should have been lower than yours. Uh, but jokes aside, truly, I really hope all of y'all do well this season. Good luck to everybody going forward. And then, of course, everybody who is uploading this season at the GWA, their channels are linked in the description down below. So please go feel free to check them all out and drop a like and subscribe on their videos as well. And before, oh my god, I am yapping way too much. My vocal cords are drained. But of course, everybody, if you liked the power rankings, please feel free to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.